1, 2, intro, 2, 3.
Everyone has dealt with this problem at least once. All right, whether it's a consistent problem every week that you got to deal with, or just once every now and then. You've worked on your tone in your practice space, everything sounds great, you go plug in, it sounds like a wet blanket over a cardboard box. Or worse, it sounds like a wet blanket over a wet cardboard box. Ugh. Either way, that's a very common frustration for most worship guitarists, and no one's really talking about how or why that happens and how to fix it. It can be so frustrating when you work so hard and you are really happy with how things are sitting, and you go plug in, and for whatever reason, you put your in-ears in or whatever you're using, and it doesn't sound the same. It sounds muddy, buried, all the things. So I see you, I hear you, and I've been there. And I'm going to show you a few tips on how to fix that. Number one, your home is lying to you about your tone, and that's not even your fault. You've worked really hard on dialing everything in. Maybe you're going as direct as possible. You're not even going through a cab or speakers or a microphone. You're going from your rig into your interface, through monitors, maybe even good monitors. And for whatever reason, you go in, you plug in, it doesn't sound the same. It's not really a tone problem, it's actually a context problem. And I'm going to talk about how that works. You're dialing everything in at home, you go plug in, you didn't account for the room that you're going to be playing in, and the PA and the speakers, and then who's running the sound at the front of house, all those things. Now, a lot of guys really struggle with this because we do our part and we work really hard at it. We're gear nerds. I mean, that's what people call us. And then we go in and maybe you have a volunteer that's running sound and it's not really their fault. Maybe they have not been really developed. We at home use what we hear at home as our reference. Sometimes when we practice with all the tracks in the album here at home, it's not the true context of what it's going to sound like in the room. There's been a lot of times where I play at home and I'm like, that's it. Everything's dialed in. I know what guitar I'm going to use, what the pickups are. I've even moved some knobs a little bit differently for this weekend. I go there and they're like, hey, can you darken up that tone? It's too bright. And you worked really hard at making it feel brighter. It's kind of discouraging. Here's the number one thing that's going to help you in dealing with that: being flexible and being able to adapt to whatever's being asked of at the church. Practice context here at home is not going to be the same context live in the room. And that kind of needs to be just said. It needs to be thrown out there. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's just, we have what we have. Everything sounds good for now. You go in, everyone is playing in the band, other electrics, keys, tracks, pads, vocals, and all those frequencies. And sometimes the front of house guy just needs you in a different little frequency at the source before he starts messing with the EQ and doing all this stuff. So again, your tone might be lying to you at home in relation to what it's going to sound like in the room. And again, that's not your fault. It's not really anyone's fault. Number two, the room you're playing in is actually an instrument that we didn't account for. Church rooms are actually chaos. I've played at our main campus for years, and it was a very forgiving room. It was big, round, very tall. It was actually probably a fun room to play in just from how forgiving the sound could be. Now I play at one of our satellite campuses, and it's a longer, deeper, more rectangular. It's treated differently. It's actually less forgiving. With that being said, we have to get our things right at the source in terms of what the front of house engineer actually needs based on what the room is giving him. Sometimes he just needs different frequencies to hit differently in the room, and that's okay. Both styles of rooms, big rooms, small rooms, they're both introducing their own versions of chaos into the mix. Every time we introduce something new, it's another layer or frequency that those guys have to account for. So when they come to you and they say, hey, I need this, no worries. Know how to fix it and know how to actually give it to them. The thing about rooms is there can be parallel walls, there could be natural reverb tails, and there's going to be a low-end buildup that gets sometimes trapped in spaces in the room. There's also PA tone coloration. The PA that's hanging, the speakers, those are going to be tuned, and they're going to be tuned to a certain tone. Certain speakers are going to give more brighter tone, more mid-range, more low end, and they're going to be placed differently around the room to give an overall good mix to every seat in the room, which is really hard. With that being said, a lot of guys have to get those PAs tuned by someone professional, and sometimes they're just certain tones. They're brighter or more mid-rangey. The campus I'm at right now, the PA is brighter. So therefore, I usually have to go with a darker tone than actually what I prefer. And that's okay. All in all, front of house compresses and shapes your tone naturally. A lot of factors are going into that. Cable runs, the board, the plugins that they're using, and then of course the PA and how it's tuned. So again, church rooms are chaos, and it's an instrument that we did not actually account for. And again, that's not necessarily anyone's fault. Now this third thing is that we're mixing to the monitors, not necessarily to the room and what the front of house needs. With that being said, once again, that's no one's fault. That's what we're using. We're using our in-ears or our monitor mix, and we're tweaking as we go to make it sound a certain way based on what we're hearing in our ears. I call this the monitor trap, or mixing to what our ears hear versus what the room hears. Now, between those two things, what I hear and what the room hears, there's a person that gets to navigate that, and that's your front of house engineer. We hear a certain thing in our ears, so we're like dialing our tone, and then we get done. He takes what we're giving him, and he's shaping the tone in the EQ band of that guitar signal. Once you set it and you think it sounds good, leave it alone, because that guy is actually tweaking and tuning and doing his EQ and compression at the front of house board. However, I'm going to give you one very cool little product that can help you in a blink of an eye that I kind of slept on for years. I had this pedal on my board a long time ago, and I found out that I was using it wrong. I was using it as a means to give myself some boost, so I would click it on and it would boost my signal like 2 dB. And I loved it. Now it's at the front of my chain, and I use it as a tone shaper that is really, really fast and awesome to front of house engineers. It is the Chase Tone Secret Preamp. This thing is awesome. It can be used as a boost naturally with a volume knob. Now I put this volume at unity, meaning when I turn it on, there's no difference in my volume. There's no big jump. If a front of house engineer says, hey, can you give me something like a little more dark? I can do it by flipping this little switch on this pedal, and it gives it to them exactly what they want every single time. It has a bright switch, a dark switch, and a mid switch. It literally does exactly what it says. If you want it to sound brighter, it gives it to you in a very tasteful manner. There's a lot of cool musical stuff going on with this pedal. If you want it darker, you go hit dark, and it doesn't overly make it muddy at all. It sounds very good, well-rounded. And then there's a mid switch that is the in between, more boost the mids. I love this thing. I've never had it be a problem when a front house engineer says, hey, I like what you're giving me, but someone's just a little too bright. I'm like, say no more, dude. I got you. I go down there, I flip it, and it still sounds great in my ears. You can hear the tone shift, but there's something tasteful about all 3 switch presets. This thing is awesome. If you got space on your rig, you need to grab this thing. And it will make your life so much easier when you're mixing in your ears, and then you got this front of house guy that comes up and, hey man, I need this. And you're like, oh, I just worked really hard on this, and now I gotta twist some knobs on whatever you're using, the TONEX or a real amp, whatever it is. I go down in the front of my chain, and I just flip this up or down, and it works every single time. Whenever I've looked back there and I go thumbs up or thumbs down, every single time when they ask for a dark or brighter tone, they give me 2 thumbs up, and then we move on. Lastly, your tone is actually not a solo endeavor. It's actually a collaborative one. We take our tone from what we worked on at home, we take it in, and then we hand it over to somebody. And that somebody gets to offer suggestions or tweak it without telling us or whatever they need to do. Now, to a lot of guys, this gets frustrating because the person that we're handing it over, if they don't really know how to fix it, but they don't like what they hear, most of the time, that's where the mute button gets hit or the fader goes down. And I'm just telling you, open up the dialogue with that front of house engineer, whether it's a young guy, older guy, a volunteer, or full-time staff person. Get that conversation started and start building a relationship or rapport, and let them feel like they're part of the process. You could even talk about, yeah, when I was at home, I heard this like high-end kind of whistle to my tone, so I tried rounding that out and just get a dialogue started with the person. Start talking a little bit down their lane with frequencies or EQ or compression. Maybe find out what those things mean to them so that you know how to tailor the tone every single time you show up on a Sunday. I talked to a lot of y'all on email and on some of the comments, and the one thing I will say is there does seem to be like a line in between us and that front of house guy, and that could be for a multitude of factors. That could be a personality situation or many other things. But I'm just here to tell you, even if you don't have a lot of similarities with the person, try to build a relationship and rapport with that person is going to do you both wonders. Again, this is a collaborative effort. The most important instrument in the room might actually be the front of house board. Just saying. So dial in with your tracks at home, bring it in, and be open to the dialogue and the conversation that might happen. If that person never gives you anything, but you find out that you weren't really heard in the house, go tell them, hey, I had people come up and they said, hey man, worship was awesome today, but I couldn't really hear you. Man, what could I have done differently? Because I don't want to give you something bad at the source. If that's what the problem is, let me know what I can do to fix it. And be open to whatever they have to say. Sometimes it may not even be what you want to hear, but it may be needed in the room. I'm going to give you 2 more tips in this while we're sitting here. One is on the website, I give you all the sound resources, and we're adding something new that's coming this year, which is a stem mixer. So you'll be able to mix however you want to practice. You might want to learn it differently, so you boost the guitar parts, make sure you can hear it and you learn it, and then you're going to maybe practice with it muted and just run your parts raw with the vocals, or maybe you can take the vocals out, whatever you want to do. So that's one tip that's going to help a lot of us practice and rehearse for Sunday. That way you can get more of a context of what your rig is going to sound like with all the other instruments without necessarily having the other guitar parts in the mix. And secondly, you should probably consider having another guitarist, if there's one available, to play your rig during rehearsal if you can find a way to manage this. And you go walk out in the room and just listen to your own rig. It may not be your style of playing in terms of the parts exactly or whatever, but one of the best things that happened at our campus was when we were trying to help each other, I actually asked to play my buddy's rig and he go out there and listen to it. And the things that we were kind of like helping each other with, he went, oh dude, I hear it now. I hear exactly what you're talking about. And it was so much easier to fix it and just leave it alone than get in our own head and do the whole what if game. He actually went out there and heard his own rig, so he knows, I hear what you're saying now. It's too bright or too muddy or whatever it is. And we can fix it together and move on. These are all practical tips about what you can actually do to help your tone from home to the room. So here's the big idea. Tone is relational. It exists in context of a bigger picture. It's a collaborative effort, not a solo effort. The big thing is this: if you want to be excellent, it's in the way we prepare. It is not the perfect tone. We're going to bring flawed tones sometimes. Do we know how to fix it and adapt to it? Are we going to listen to our sound guys? I hope after this video we're going to. I know we all chase tone, and that's an awesome thing, and it's really fun, but we'll never probably get the perfect tone that we want. And as much as we like the tone that we have right now, we're probably not going to like it this time next year, and that's okay. The way we adapt week to week is going to get us further together than trying to go at it alone. Hope this helps. Let's make our tone better from home into our room. If you got any tips or anything in the comments, get in there, drop them. As always, love y'all. Keep playing, keep playing.